3 months ago, I was in College Station, Texas, sitting alone in a restaurant. My dad was busy grabbing the last of his food from the counter, and while I was sitting there, directly to my left, was a 4-year-old girl and her mother. As I sat there, this girl slowly slid a little bit closer to me, until finally she started peppering me with questions. What is your name? Where are you from? How old are you? Over the next 8 minutes, I got to know Caitlin, a 4-year-old that loved Texas A&M and her stuffed animal reveille. At the end of those 8 minutes, as she and her mom got ready to leave, Caitlin stopped and she paused and she looked at me and she said, "Micah, we're friends." And with that she left, and I will probably never see Caitlin or her mom ever again. But I can also tell you that I will not forget that story anytime soon, and the bluntness with which she offered that final statement. If I had been on my phone that day in that restaurant, I would have missed that exchange. It wouldn't have been the first time I missed that exchange either. As a millennial living in an age that is infatuated with phones and technology, I know that I've missed out on countless opportunities to interact with people or to have quality moments like that. And I think that that is something that we as a culture are missing out on too much. I'm going to tell you how addictive our phones are, how they are affecting our relationships with people, and why we need to change that. As a culture, we are incredibly attached to our phones. I'm sure we all know that. Leslie Alderman of the New York Times wrote in 2017 that on average, people check their phones 47 times a day, a number that jumps to 82 for people ages 18 to 24. Sarah Karnasowicz puts it in another light, saying that the average American adult spends 3 hours a day on their phones. While those are staggering statistics, if you take a moment just to think about your last 5 hours, they might be a little bit relatable. Part of this is because, as we all know, our phones are useful. From Google Maps to our calendars, they have numerous tools. But another reason is shown by Jeff Steibel of USA Today, who points out a chemical in our brains called dopamine. In the simplest of senses, what dopamine is a little chemical that is released and makes us feel this temporary moment of happiness. So when we get a Snapchat or a notification on Instagram, we feel this little rush of pleasure, which is a large part of the reason why we are constantly going to our back pockets to grab that phone. Unfortunately, that limits and negatively impacts the relationships that we have. Emma Sapala of Greater Good magazine points out that humans are naturally intuitive. We are naturally good at picking up on signals. So when you go to your pocket, people naturally feel disrespected or ignored. Continued studies show that even just having a phone in between two people while you're having a meal makes it more difficult to connect with the person across from you. In 2015, Guy Wench of Psychology Today states that regardless of the intention, when we check our phones, we are rejecting the person across from us. And as we all know, that's not a good feeling. Phones are not, of course, all bad. Many times people have reported being able to further their relationships because of phones, because of the distance that they span and the accessibility to other people that they give us. But when you are sharing a meal with someone, when you are sitting across the table from somebody, that is not the time to be on your phone. As Sapala points out, we ultimately don't have a substitute for face-to-face interactions. Our deepest relationships, the people that become our best friends, the people that we go on to marry, those are relationships that are formed face-to-face. Grace Blue Rock said that the number one regret expressed by people as they passed away is a desire to have been more loving towards the people that mattered most. She went on to say that they wished they had been more present with people instead of being distracted by trivial things around them. If that is what is being said right now, imagine what that will look like for us, living in a culture that is more obsessed with technology than any before us. Imagine how great that problem may be down the road. That's not something that we can afford to let happen. So we need to find ways to change our addiction to our phones. Wench states that the most important thing we can do is have an awareness around how much we are on our phones. If you have that awareness, you are able to make the choice. If you want to be on your phone, or if you want to be present with the person in front of you. That is a choice that we need to make more often, to be present with the people in front of us. culture is either already addicted to our phones or we are quickly trending in that direction. And it is hurting the interactions that we have in person. I spent this past 10 weeks, or the 10 weeks of my summer, working as a camp counselor. And while I was there, every single person was required to turn in their phone for the duration of the time that they were working. I can tell you that I made many of my closest friendships in that 10-week period. And that's not a coincidence. Without my phone, without a distraction, I was able to go deeper than I would have been able to. I know that it's probably unrealistic to go 10 weeks without a phone, or even the next day, or even the next 3 hours. But I don't think it's that crazy to leave your phone in your pocket when you are sharing a meal with someone. I don't think it is that crazy to consciously choose the person in front of you, because they are ultimately worth far more than that Snapchat or that Instagram or whatever you might have on your phone. I know that I was able to make that choice 3 months ago in College Station, and I left with an incredible story, one that I will not forget. Just imagine the stories that we could share if we all made that decision with a little more frequency. Thank you.